Yo, yo, yo. What's good, YouTube? You already know, man. It's your boy, LeBron, Potent Pondering. I'm back with another video. Please come in and thumbs up this video. Hit the bell notification, hit all notifications so you have my videos in your possession each and every time I go live or I do uploads. So I just wanted to come and do this quick live before I got to work. I was having this conversation with an associate. Um, just in regards to like, because we are all 80s babies, and we was just speaking about like some things in regards to like the crack era. So, oh man, I forgot to switch it on, but it's okay. So listen, I was having a conversation with one of my associates about the crack era. And I noticed that with a lot of these people who I have these conversations with, a lot of the things that they talk about and the happenings are all, past tense. And it's like I find myself like not in like not an argument, but in debates with people, and I be trying to tell them like I don't know if you don't realize it or not, but the remnants of the crack era are still very much alive. It's like people think that it was just like a 80s, 90s type of thing. Like, no, it still goes on. Then, number one, you have to realize this, right? Imagine how many kids who grew up with a parent who was, addicted to drugs or, family or whatever. And then, they ended up following the lead. Like, people make it seem like there's not like a lot of 80s or 90s babies who did not turn to drugs. Yes, they did. They did. And then also you have to realize this as well. And then I'm speaking from a perspective of a person like my mother wasn't on drugs, but I had many family members and friends who were in school who their families were, their mother or their father were on drugs, right? And I never forget, like, you know just the feeling that's associated with it, like how I would feel for them, like, and some of, I want to say, the embarrassment that they would have. But let me tell you something. In a perfect world, we all want our parents to be in a perfect world, we all want our parents to be like the parents we see on TV, and like, like everything is perfect, super perfect, or whatever the case may be. But a lot of the times it's not like that. A lot of the times, people do make bad decisions and they end up on drugs based off of, who they're associated with. Women, they say that you got to be extra careful. I know, like, that whole situation with Bobby Brown and Whitney Houston, where they were saying, like, a lot of people was low key saying that they were saying that Whitney got Bobby on it or whatever, but the true study shows that women typically get on drugs based off a guy who they're dealing with. You ever notice that? You ever notice that when you have a friend, you could have known her in high school, like she was mad cool and chill. Not saying that, well, just hear me out. She was just a certain way, but then once she got affiliated with a guy, she started smoking weed and she started doing all of this, like, different, all of these different things that she never did before. I know you know somebody that's like that. They were one way prior, and then as soon as they got affiliated and associated with another person, now they smoke weed. Now they do all of these things that they've never did before. Yeah, that's real. So anyway, my messaging was that the remnants of the crack era are very much still alive. Like, I want to, I truthfully believe that the happenings that are going on right now, with especially like these young kids terrorizing the world. Hold on. I think this is one of my old coworkers in front of me. the like these kids terrorizing, like, there's always these stories with these kids. Like, for example, I seen the story out of Queens, New York, where this 16-year-old, he pushed the lady who was going to church down the stairs backwards. She in critical condition, all laid out, catatonic on the ground. He done pushed her down. So I think she done knocked her head and robbed her, and everything like that, right? Look at the situation with that 19-year-old girl in Brooklyn who was stabbed to death by another young teenager, or something like that. I'm not saying that. Yeah, I do think that it's very much still alive, and I think that these instances, not all of them, but I do believe that they are closely related. Yo, I remember I watched this documentary one time, right? Because I'm from New York, so you got to realize there's certain things in New York that interest me. So, for example, I have friends who lived in Brownsville, Brooklyn. So it was this whole documentary on Brownsville, and like people talking about it, saying like, Brown, like, basically saying that black people were set up to fail and to be repressed and to compete and to continue the same cycles over and over again. So an example given, They was talking about the projects, and they was saying how like the average mother back like in the 70s, I can't remember the era of like exact. I think it was the 70s or the even the 60s. They were saying that the average mother was getting pregnant at 15. So imagine like they were they were getting pregnant at such young ages. They didn't have the proper guidance and couldn't lead the kids right. So that just turns into more kids being born and like I don't want to say degeneracy, but yeah, it's pretty much what it is. So the cycle never ends. I felt like the kids who I seen growing up, you have to realize it. So if they're saying that the crack era was in the 80s and the spike and all of that, so what I want to say is this: all of those kids, the 80s and 90s babies, their kids are older now. Those and listen, I'm not trying to place blame on nobody, but I think that we overlook this. Them kids who was born in the 80s and 90s and they went through that trauma. And first thing first, you have to understand this: whatever you went through, see. Hmm. I seen this video the other day by this lady who I follow, and this is so true. You can't like you have to learn how to accept what happened and not victimize yourself because there's no growth like in playing the victim all the time. Like it's unfortunate, but it's like we don't pick our parents. It's almost like a warp in Mario where it's like you don't know who you're gonna come through. You don't know the vessel of the being that you're gonna come through. Some people are really fortunate that they come through an amazing parent who works hard and they'll do anything to see you happy and that they're not addicted to any drugs. That's not everybody's story. It's not. And like, listen, just to say this right quick, right? We still have struggles with parents who ain't even on drugs. Because I have a family member right now who going through an issue because they got a narcissistic mother who don't listen to them. They don't listen. They don't care how they feel. But guess what? Their parent grew up addicted to drugs. They know how to provide financially, but they don't know how to love. I'm telling you. And you know what? You know what it was though. But their story is a little bit more deeper. Um, their parents' story is a little bit more deeper. They were hurt by that whole era of the, of the crack era and everything like that. It's all a trickle down. But guess what I had to tell this family member? I said, you are honestly living in a blessing, even though your mother is not perfect. Your mother is great on paper. She provides. She does really well, but she has some misses, and those misses, and it's like. I don't know. Do you feel as though that's making an excuse for a parent saying that they've been through something? Because I've been saying this for years. Like we always talk about how bad a parent is, but we never question who broke their heart initially, who did what they did to them. I was talking to my friend about this a few years ago, and I was kind of getting mad at her at a point because I felt like she was having no grace for her mom. Like, how long are you gonna live in this thing? Like, you know what I'm saying? But I didn't understand her gripe either fully at the time because she was like, I was the oldest, I had to do everything. I was working when I was like 16, 17. My mother took my whole check. I don't know that life. I don't know it. But what I wanted to say is that I feel as though things are like the happenings of the now are the effects of what happened of what happened in the past. A lot of these kids, you got to realize, like the safety net that we had, like in grandparents who would do the raising of the children, if the mother or the father who was on drugs. I felt like that's highly discounted, right? And I never forget being in high school, and I had a friend and she used to always say crazy stuff, but she said something one day that was just not funny to me, and I did not like it at all. So it was like one of those things where it's like, did you just say that? Like this girl was like, it's like standing at our table, and she was like, yeah, because I got to go somewhere after school, and my grandmother. And then the girl was like, what she say? She was like, oh, you live with your grandmother? And she said, yeah, I live with my grandmother. Now, mind you, before I say what I'm gonna say, she could have been living with her grandmother because her mother passed away. Her parents both passed away in a car accident. She could have adopted them. And I just never forget her saying to her, and we just all paused for a second. Like, she was like, oh, you live with your grandmother? Your mother a crackhead? And it was the truth though, but you ain't have to say that shit. Like, I didn't understand why she said that to her. That was so wrong. But then you know what? I realized the flip side of her. Her mother was sick. Her mother had passed away right after she graduated from high school. Her mother was sickly like all through pretty much her school life. And she would tell me that you don't know what it's like to have a mother who's dealing with sarcoidosis, and that's like some sort of autoimmune disease that eats away at your lungs. So her mother died like when she was, and I never forget her saying like, I always prayed that my mother would live to see me graduate, but now I wish that I prayed for more or whatever, right? But yeah, I remember she said that to that girl, like, you live with your mother, you live with your grandmother, is your mother a crackhead? And I just thought it was so crass, like, damn, like, like, and she had a certain way about her. I'm telling you, that hurt that that people go through and experience, they will put that hurt on other people. Now, I'll be honest with you, she was funny sometimes, because I remember we was on the bus. It was this other kid, like, and if you ever took public transportation, you know what it's like. If you wear a light colored jacket and you rub up against the bus and you get dirt on you or whatever. I don't like. She used to be so crazy, like, so this kid, his jacket had rubbed up against the bus before we got on it. So I never forget, he almost wanted to fight her on the bus. And she was like, oh my God, like, you got a stain on your jacket. But it's just about how she went about it, right? She was like, what's that stain on your jacket? And she was like, did you shit on your coat? And then she started laughing so hysterically, like, you ever realize when a person start laughing at their joke so much that everybody start laughing? That's how it was. She was like, oh my God. Like, she was going crazy. But I realize now that she used to treat people the way that she treated them because she was going through her own pain. Because anybody who's truly happy is not trying to make somebody feel bad. Like, what do I gain from saying that your parent is on drugs or trying to call you out and make you feel a certain type of way? Now, I'll tell you the flip side of this. I have this cousin who I felt like, yo, is you not going to let me over? You fuck, damn. So I had this cousin, right, who I felt like she was never really happy for people because of her circumstance. She does amazing in life right now, and I feel like she fights so hard to go against that, but I don't think she realized the energy that she be having, like, that she give up, because it's like, it's none of our faults. Like, it's not your fault and it's not my fault the way that our parents end up. But she just always had this type of energy that is like, I don't know, like a bitch, yeah, a bitch. But it's like, that's not anybody's fault. Like, you got to realize, like, what you were subjugated to, and the things that we've been through is not the fault. It's not the fault of the child. We were merely just born into the situation, right? Um, but the bigger thing that I wanted to say is I want you to understand is, with everything going on in the world, especially in our communities, like black communities, urban communities, like, shoot. And I'm not just saying that those type of that our people are only ones who are on drugs. Come on, there's so many different white crackheads, and like, they on all types of drugs and stuff too. What I'm only speaking to what I know about, and what I'm saying is that what I see in our community, all of these young kids that are uh, wreaking havoc and terrorizing our communities, it's the remnants of the crack era. You think that it was just over because of the 80s and 90s? No, those kids grew up. And then listen, you got to thank God for the safety nets that existed with the grandparents, right? With the grandparents who did take the children in, who was able to foster some sort of love and, like, show them a different type of life. And listen, we don't appreciate that enough. We don't we don't appreciate the parents enough, and then we don't understand once they get older and they all ran out and they going through dementia because they done been spent psychologically their whole damn life after worrying and worrying about one thing and going into another thing. We don't we under I think we undervalue that. And, like, even my mom, right? Just get over it. I know you want to get over it. So even my mom, right? We undervalue that because it's like, let me tell you this, mom. I think I always said this when I was younger. See, I always appreciate and not acknowledge a thing when I'm in it. If every teen mom had an experience like my mom, I think that the world honestly would have been a better place. My mom got pregnant at 15 and delivered my oldest brother at the age of 16. Guess what? I do believe that she's from that era where people don't have that same type of shame. And I don't think a baby is a shame. But what I'm trying to say is, my grandparents, like, they had, even though that was like a mishap and it happened, and guess how it happened? My mother was babysitting for somebody in the family or whatever. It was some boy over there, and that's how she got caught up. That's what I'm saying. You got to know, and that's what looped my mind earlier. I'm like, oh, you got to know who your child is hanging around. They could be saying they babysitting, but who's over there? And that's exactly how she got caught up. But guess what? My mother was pregnant at 15, gave birth at 16. But guess what my grandparents did? They said, you still going to school and going to finish high school, and you going to college so that you could provide a life for this baby. How many people really had that chance? I know so many people, even when I grew up in the 80s and 90s, that once they got pregnant, I knew people in high school, middle school who got pregnant. Yo, this girl, when I was in middle school, seventh, eighth grade, she started having babies already. already. Everybody don't have that family structure and that, and so a lot of times our grandparents are the safety net, and they get pushed, and they unfortunately they have to take it on. No, you're not getting over it. No, you waited too late. So thank God for a lot of our grandparents and our aunts and uncles, and like the good ones who didn't take advantage of you, and see that your mom is on drugs, and they try to, like, especially, I ain't saying that women don't commit assault against children, but listen, let me tell you, I got a friend, man. Listen, I got a friend where her mother was on drugs, the grandmother was taking care of them, and the uncle was running through all of all of her granddaughters in the house. He assaulted all of the granddaughters in the house. It was so crazy. It is so crazy. So that's incest, and that messes with a person's mind psychologically. And I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I'm not gonna link the stories up to let you know what's what, but this person is very successful today, but they got a lot of issues. They have a lot of issues. And I think, and it's so crazy that this person is a therapist, and I've never seen them do work on themselves though. Got whole degrees and everything, and behind the scenes a nasty person. How you, and it's like, speaking with somebody who knows them, I'm like, how are this, like how are you like, not saying that you don't deserve that, right? No, you deserve it. I'm happy that you go hard. I felt like this girl actually went against the odds when it comes to like striving and making sure that she made something out of herself. But you strive, and you get to a point where you built yourself up, and you're a whole mental health therapist out here, but people don't know behind the scenes you're terrorizing people. You're terrorizing them. You didn't let go of that hurt, and you be all over social media talking about, oh, get therapy, but what are you doing? See, listen, man, man, mm, listen. So anyway, my big message that I just wanted to say is that the biggest message I would like you to glean from this is, I don't even know if you've been through that, right? But you can't. One thing that I think that you should do is accept the fact that you were a child then. It doesn't really matter how you were raised, who did what and who didn't do what. It's about the now. Do you want to live the rest of your life like, in that type of victim mind state? Like, this person did this to me. Yeah, it's fucked up. It's messed up. And a lot of us didn't deserve, some of the things that we went through. But I think it's just acknowledging, saying that, I was a child. Like, I didn't deserve that. It's like trying to like get past it. And I do think that therapy helps that. I do, but I can't help to say that, like, when I was having that conversation with this person and they was talking about the past, like, oh, the crack era. I'm like, the crack era is still alive. The remnants of the crack era is very much still here. I don't care what you say. You can try to say mental illness, this and that. Listen, let me tell you something. How many children do you think that if they had an actual chance where they weren't subjugated to even like these ghettos and stuff, like like the worst of the worst neighborhoods, what if their parents were doing well and they were actually involved in things? Do you think that the trajectory of their life would still be the same? No. No, I don't think so. I don't. I'm driving right now too, so give me a second. Let me read some of these comments. Um you said facts, they gotta heal the childhood wounds. Right. Exactly. So, but it's like you have to want to do that too. You have to want to want better. But I'm not here to like preach to anybody or anything, but I just wanted to say is that, like, I still see it. I still see the results of that, because you got to realize it wasn't just over in the 80s and in the 90s, and you seen that. It was kids who didn't have the safety net of having grandparents who, you know, who took care of them and took them out of that situation. That's why, low key, when I see a grandmother who is so serious about their kids, like their grandkids, and they know that the mother is a certain type of way, I get happy, because I'm just like, at least they got somebody in their life vouching for them. Like, one of my neighbors, I could tell that something was going on with her, and she was like, "Oh, my mom comes every week and she grocery shops for my kids, because she said that I don't know how to shop." And I'm thinking to myself, like, you're like in your 30s or 40s, like you don't know how to shop, like, but I ain't judge her or whatever. I just was thinking that to myself, but the grandmother was just heavily in their life. She was like, yeah, because she said that I buy too much junk and the kids don't need that or whatever. But Every time I see her, she on her phone. It's like these phones is the new crack. These phones are like, I'm telling you. And one of my the person who I was speaking to about this, they were saying how like the 80s and 90s babies, we grew up so much seeing people on drugs that they think that it should be a study in regards to the weed too. Like as much as people consume weed, they think that there's some sort of like crack era link with people smoking. And I said, I do remember having this conversation with a friend though, like maybe a few years ago, and they got offended. And this is exactly what I said. I said, you know how we look at people who do crack, right, and all of that. I say, we smoke weed every day. We're still addicted to something. I said, we're no better than them. Real talk. And you know what this person said? Why did you say that to me? Why? Because you don't want to face the harsh realities. If you have to smoke something every day or be on something every day, you are addicted. And just because their choice may be crack cocaine or whatever the case may be, you're still addicted. You're still an addict. You are. Do you know that some people they can't stop smoking weed? Weed is a serious addiction because some people when they stop smoking it, they go through a tremendous amount of behavioral issues. Even when they smoking it, they go through behavioral issues when they like withdrawing. Like I never forget my cousin being at one of our barbecues, and her mom, listen, her mom was on drugs our whole life, so much to the point where I be arguing with my brother, saying, "Yo, she's on that shit too," and she's one of those people. She ain't have the safety net. Thank God for our grandparents. Like my grandparents, thank God for them for being there for my mom when she got pregnant at 15, delivered at 16, was able to snatch my little brother up. I mean, snatch my oldest brother up, say, you still going to college, you going to finish high school. I wish everybody had that. But family ain't family for everybody. It ain't. Family is not family for everybody. Could you imagine if all of those 15-year-olds had that support, 16-year-olds had that support, if should they have made that mistake, had they made that mistake, they was like, okay, you gonna have that support. No, but guess what? They be on their own and they get pushed out into the world, their own apartment, and then you 15 trying to navigate, 15, 16 trying to navigate with your own apartment. Then you got guys being drawn to you, you got your own apartment, so then you picking the wrong guys to be around your child. It's a recipe for disaster. It is. It's a recipe for disaster. So, do I want to stop and get breakfast? I do got a mango and a banana. Do I want to stop and get breakfast? I do. I am. So, listen, y'all. I hope, well, yeah, because I'm not going to make it until 8 o'clock anyway. I might as well stop and get it. So listen, y'all. I hope so. The message that I want you to take from this is, regardless of what you've been through, like find a way, get therapy. I'm telling you, therapy does help to heal past traumas and dramas. Also, realize most of all is that it wasn't your fault. Whatever it was that you've been through, you just gotta like. I think the harsh reality we don't want to face, and you just have to say it out loud. My parent failed me. They failed me, and that's okay, right? Like I said, a lot of us didn't have that. A lot of people didn't have that safety net of that grandparents, to come in and to be able to remove you from certain situations. And sometimes they can remove you when the hurt has already happened. So the biggest thing is that you can't be hard on yourself. You just have to learn, make sure that you're not repeating that cycle, and that when you have children, that you just have to be extra careful. Like my mom, she always told me alcoholism runs in my family, and I noticed it and I realized it because so many different people in my family are alcoholics, right? So when I noticed, when I first moved here to Texas and I was going through a little breakup, I was noticing that I was drinking wine every night, and it was like getting to a point where it was just like every night. And I said, oh no, this got to stop. It got to stop, because I was noticing the trend. I would have my little blunt, and I was smoking some real high grade weed at the time. So I'll be smoking my weed, getting so high, and then I'll be drinking my wine to kind of like balance it out. And then you want to know real talk what stopped me? This is why like I love Nas' album King Disease, because Nas was saying like, when he was just doing too much, he was like, I was drinking the wine every day and eating the red meat or whatever the case may be. And he said he ended up he said something in the lyrics about getting gout. That's exactly what happened to me, drinking that wine every day. So let me tell you this though. I'm one of these people. I learn by what happens, and I make it, it never happens again, right? I had a gout. Now, gout runs in my family too. My grandfather, my uncle, they all had it, so I know that it's something that's like genetic, right? So I had this horrible gout flare up, and that's when I was drinking the wine and self medicating with the wine every night. I had this routine. It's like every time I got off work, I was drinking wine, a full bottle, full throttle, a full bottle, every night. But guess what? Once I had that one flare up and it went away, that was back in like 2017. Yep, 2017. I ain't never have a gout flare up again. It's like it never even happened. Some people have several gout flare ups. Guess what that means, low key? It means that you're not eating right and you're not making a conscious effort to eat right. Let's call a spade a spade. Let's face harsh realities and realize what it is when people go through stuff. So listen, I'm about to get off here because I do want to order my food. Yeah, just look around and see what's going on. Like, a lot of people got issues, but a lot of these issues still stem from that crack era. A lot of the dysfunction, a lot of the disarray, a lot of the young kids wreaking havoc. Look at their parents. Look this. I guarantee you, if you do, like, you know how they say, what's the square root of X pain? The square root be, the existence that they grew up in or whatever, right? And even though I grew up in an existence that wasn't like that, I'm still not better than a person. Maybe emotionally, I'm maybe in a better position, but I'm not better than you. But I can see it though. Even though my mom wasn't on drugs, I see the impacts with, like, especially with different family members and how they are. I have family members who rose above. Like I said, my cousin, who she's very successful, and then the other person who I knew who been through the incest, where the uncle was sleeping with all of the girls in the family. That's horrible. Her mother was on drugs. Her grandmother was raising her, but the grandmother was sick, and the uncle was living there, and the uncle was taking advantage of all the young girls at night, all of them. But it's like, I don't know. See, I got to question that situation with the grandmother, because I feel like the person who told me that you might be being like, how was the grandmother so sick? She didn't know what was going on. When I tell you that man ran through all of them, and when I say all of them, it was at least seven grandkids that was there in that house that they had, ran through all of them. Still psychological issues exist today within all of them. So you got to realize who your parent is, what they've been through, and especially if there's any drugs involved, man. Oh man. Anyway, I hope that you get something from this video this morning. I wanted to come and talk about something else, but sometimes I don't be feeling like talking about celebrity topics all the time, and I don't really care about how many views certain topics get. So I'll be going live later and doing a video on something different, but this was on my heart because I had this conversation with this person yesterday. So listen, let me know how you feel about anything that I spoke on. Let me know, do you see it? Do you still see the effects and the impacts of the crack era? Do you see it, like, within, like, these people who are wreaking havoc? Like, what do you think the square root of all of this dysfunction and all of this terror that people is causing in these communities where people like us, me and you, are from, or where we live? Where do you think that comes from? Do you think that if these kids had a chance and that they had parents who was there consistently and they listened to them, and it wasn't, a crazy household, you know do you think that their trajectory would be different? I know that it would be different. I know that it would be. I can't remember the documentary, but look up on YouTube the documentaries. It was a documentary, Brownsville, Brooklyn. They were saying how all the young mothers, they were like 15 years old, growing up in the projects. Imagine being a young mother without the support of a family, and then it's all it does is breed degeneracy. That's all it does. But guess what? It's not your fault as a child. It's not. It's not. You listen, this is like, I look at it like Mario, and I know you might think that's crazy, but you don't know the warp you're gonna come through. You don't know. You think that 9-year old who was pushed out the car by her mother with the 8-month-old baby, and the baby got ran over by a car. You think that she knew that warp that she came through of a mother that was like that? They was living in a nice area in Woodland Hills. Wasn't that the area where Megan Thee Stallion got shot up or shot in that? I mean, allegedly that incident took place in Woodland Hills, California. Look where they was living at. She was in a Porsche. She crashed her Porsche. What was going on? Sometimes you can't pick your parent. You can't. But anyway, I'm out of here. Y'all have a blessed day. And alcohol is one of the biggest causes of gout. Right. Right. So anyway, I hope y'all have a blessed day, and I'm gonna holler at y'all later. Peace.